Digital transformation is all about how physical goods are going to become physical plus software plus data. Look at the case of a car, for instance. Today, when you purchase a car, already 20% of the price is the price of the data on the software from the car. And you can expect that in the 5 years, it will be 60%. What is happening to this car industry is happening to everything, to hospitality, it's happening to agriculture, energy, everywhere. So we need to think how really we are going to enable the countries to capture the fruits from this digital transformation. If I take the case of Europe, for instance, the data economy was representing a bit more than 300 billion euro in EU 27 in 2018. If you project that to 2025, it may reach 800 billion euro. You can see that this value of the software and the data is disrupting the way the economy will be driven. So a lot of the efforts that we need to have is to think how we can make it happen that this data economy is produced by the countries and stay in the countries in order to increase the GDP and increase also the employment. And we believe that it cannot happen without also producing in country by countries which have their own service providers implemented in order that not only the fruit can be delivered in the country and nourish the GDP, but also the production means are in the countries. So we believe that decentralized cloud and through the different countries in the region are really the way to go. So the other thing I want to touch base around with this decentralized cloud story, it is that there are means to achieve that together between countries. And it needs to happen because if you take some group of countries who are working together on establishing together a good trade between the countries, they are leveraging the trade that they are doing through exchanging goods. And if these goods are becoming goods plus software and data, they need to exchange together the software and the data and generate the GDP. This is happening in different territories. You know, if you look at Europe, EU 27, 68% of the trade of Europe is intra-trade. If you are able to convert this trade, which was physical goods, to data and the produce of this data, in this case, you do not drop your intra-trade, you continue to augment your GDP, and you can create jobs. This is an opportunity also for specific continents, such as Africa, for instance, where in Africa, the intra-trade between the countries is only 18%. I'm sure they will be able to transform, to create national clouds everywhere and creating a real support for the digital transformation. It can feed the intra-trade across Africa, and in this case, it will feed the GDP and the employment.
Thanks, Xavier. Now, talking about data economy, right? I mean, there are three questions that come to my mind. Who values the data that's being generated, or who owns the data, and what do the owners of the data get back in return? The answer is manifold. More often than not, like we ourselves are the owners of the data and we get nothing back. Someone's working on you, extracts insights out of it, throws ads on you, and then you get back nothing. Same thing. When you bring it to the concept of local clouds and intra-country clouds or federated clouds, you talk about data exchange platforms. This is, speaking of data exchange platforms in a data economy, two things come to my mind: Smart Africa and Gaia-x. Smart Africa supports intra and cross-country trade, having use cases that are being created by the owners and used by the different stakeholders across, and you create the IP that is created rest in the countries by this. The second example in our region closer to us is Gaia-x. Again, federated cloud dispersed across different hubs and then made and used by the users. And in our region, the first cloud comes in Slovenia, then off to Slovakia, and then again in Hungary. So all hubs coming up. Smart Africa supports intra-country and cross-country trade based on a digital twin concept, wherein the assets and the IP created remain in the countries as a part of digital economy. So the data that is created is used by the different stakeholders, remains in the country, and the IP and the knowledge remains in the country.
I want to come back on this economy of data and what service providers can do with that. We have been working a lot in the context of Gaia-x, this European project regarding the economy of data, a topic that I discussed previously in one of these calls. What we decided to do is really to build a framework in order to enable service provider to deliver data spaces as a service. And this is today an opportunity because we have the reference architecture to do it. And it will also not only encompass what you can do with distributed data spaces for vertical industries, but also couple that with very strong identity management. And this reference architecture, we have it. We have already deployed it with 5 service providers in Europe. So I don't see why we could not do that with big service providers such as Beyond.pl.
Thanks, Xavier. Maybe this is the first time in history cross-country data exchange based on trust, identity, and at the same time complying to local standards and regulations is come up. This is Gaia-x for you. Automotive industry is a classic example under Catena-X, which is part of Gaia-x. Catena-X is an extensive ecosystem of automotive manufacturers, car manufacturers, their suppliers, and SMB sectors, where all of them, they come together and the supply chain is completed in the form of a digital twin. What happens in the back end? The data is generated, exposed, and logical sense made out of it, and complete ecosystem use case created. Among the members of this particular consortium, along with HP, you have the leading tier 1 service providers, car manufacturers, resellers, and of automotive industry, and you have a complete visibility what's happening to the whole supply chain. Basic questions actually can be answered by this data space. Something like, at this time, in the time of uncertainties, when you combine all the things together, you get to know when will you get the car. The purpose of this association is to create uniform standard for information and data exchange, sharing throughout the entire automotive ecosystem.